The bells of Machond Hills rang slow and heavy, and the church was filled with people dressed in black. I stood frozen by the coffin, my eyes burning with tears as I tried to say goodbye to my sister Amara. Her coffin shone like glass under the dim light, but I hadn't been allowed to see her face. The air was thick with whispers and sobs. My chest felt hollow, like a part of me had been buried already. Then, just as the pastor's voice rose in prayer, my phone buzzed in my hand. I almost ignored it, thinking it was just another condolence message. But when I glanced at the screen, my heart stopped. The words glowed back at me, "I'm alive. Don't trust our parents." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My knees nearly gave out. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I stared at the coffin, and the ground beneath me seemed to shift. Was Amara alive? Or was this a cruel trick? My parents sat in the front row, their faces stone, their eyes never once meeting mine. Suddenly, every sob in the room, every prayer, every flower on the coffin felt wrong. It wasn't grief anymore. It was theater. A performance. And it was all for me. The coffin before me was no longer a symbol of loss, it was a symbol of a lie, and the people I thought I could trust most might be the ones behind it. The message on my phone kept flashing before my eyes like a fire I couldn't put out. I'm alive. Don't trust our parents. My hands shook so badly that I almost dropped the phone. At first, I told myself it had to be a cruel prank, maybe someone sick enough to make fun of my pain. But deep inside, something whispered that it was really Amara. I wanted to believe it, but how could I? She was supposed to be lying inside that coffin right in front of me. My head spun, my stomach twisted, and suddenly grief was not the only weight crushing me. Fear and doubt crawled in. I looked up at my parents. They sat in the front row like statues, their faces hard, their eyes fixed on the pastor but never softening when her name was spoken. Every time someone said, "Amara," I noticed a strange stiffness in their shoulders, like they were holding something back. It wasn't grief. It was something darker. I remembered how they had rushed everything, how the burial was arranged within days, how they had stopped me from opening the casket to see her one last time. They had said the body was burned too badly in the fire. At the time, I had believed them because I was broken and too lost in sorrow. But now that excuse felt like poison. I thought of Amara's belongings. Her diary, her bracelets, her favorite books, things she never went anywhere without. My parents had said all of it was gone in the fire. But I knew they were lying. That diary had been hidden carefully, never left in danger. Why lie unless they were covering something? The walls of the church seemed to close in. Everyone around me cried, their voices low and heavy with sadness, but to me it all sounded fake. The flowers, the black clothes, the whispers, it all looked like a play. And my parents were the directors of this show. If Amara really was alive, then this funeral was nothing more than a trap, a mask hiding something terrible. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Betrayal. The word cut sharper than any knife. Could my own parents have staged their daughter's death? Could they really look me in the eye and watch me grieve over an empty box or, worse, over someone who wasn't Amara at all? The thought made me feel sick. I wanted to scream, to stand up and demand answers. But my legs felt weak, and my throat locked tight. So I sat there in silence, clutching my phone, holding on to that one glowing message like it was the only rope keeping me from drowning. If Amara was alive, then everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just mourning my sister, I was mourning the parents I thought I had. Word count, 533. At the reception after the burial, the room buzzed with the clinking of plates and the soft chatter of mourners trying to comfort each other. People lined up for food, some shared memories of Amara, and others hugged me tightly, their words soaked with pity. But while everyone else acted like it was a normal funeral gathering, my parents stood apart. They whispered in dark corners with men I had never seen before. The men wore black suits, their expressions cold and businesslike, not the faces of people who had come to grieve. Every time I looked toward my parents, they quickly shifted their eyes, pretending to focus on something else. It was as if they were afraid I might read the truth in their faces. I forced myself to walk up to them and ask about Amara's belongings. My voice trembled, but I needed answers. My mother gave me a sharp look before answering too quickly. Everything was lost in the fire. My father nodded along, his jaw tight, his eyes refusing to meet mine. Their answer didn't make sense. It didn't match the sister I knew. Amara never let her diary out of her sight. It was her most precious possession, filled with her secrets, her dreams, and even the things she never told me. She would have saved it first if a fire had really happened. The more I thought about it, the more their lie became clear. I watched as they leaned closer to the men in suits, speaking in low tones, their heads bent together as if plotting. None of them looked like family friends. They looked like people hired to handle dirty work. A chill spread down my spine. Why would my parents need to whisper with strangers at their own daughter's funeral? And why were they so eager to shut me out whenever I tried to come closer? I sat in a corner, pretending to listen to an elderly aunt who was talking about Amara as a child, but my eyes stayed locked on my parents. Every gesture, every whisper, every glance seemed wrong. They weren't grieving parents. They were hiding something. My hands clenched around the phone in my pocket, the memory of Amara's message burning like fire in my mind. I'm alive. Don't trust our parents. The more I replayed it, the more sense it made. My parents were too calm, too controlled. They hadn't shed a real tear all day. Their sadness was a mask, carefully worn for everyone else, but to me it now looked like a performance. My heart pounded as suspicion grew stronger with every second. Could it be true that they had planned all of this? Could they have staged her death, created this funeral, and lied to me with straight faces? The thought was unbearable, but the warning from Amara echoed louder than the church bells that morning. If she was alive, then my parents weren't just keeping secrets. They were the reason she had to disappear. That night I couldn't sleep. The words from Amara's first message kept replaying in my head, and my parents' strange behavior at the reception haunted me like a shadow. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, waiting for answers that wouldn't come. Then my phone buzzed again. My heart jumped into my throat. With shaking hands, I unlocked it and saw a new message. It wasn't words this time but a simple location pin. It blinked on the map, pointing to the outskirts of Harare. My pulse raced so fast I thought it might wake the whole house. I knew I couldn't let anyone see me leave, so I crept out like a thief. My footsteps were light, my breath shallow, every sound in the quiet night making me flinch. I slipped into my car and started the engine, the headlights slicing through the blackness of the road. The city lights faded behind me as I drove farther into the silence, the pin guiding me through empty streets and overgrown fields. My hands gripped the wheel, sweaty and trembling. Part of me was terrified it was a trap, but another part burned with hope that my sister was really alive. The location led me to an abandoned school building. Its walls were cracked, windows broken, and weeds climbed over the old gates. I parked and stepped out, the air cold against my skin. My footsteps echoed on the concrete as I pushed the door open. Inside, the smell of dust and dampness hit me. My phone's flashlight cut through the dark halls, and then I froze. There she was. Amara. Alive. Thin, trembling, her clothes torn, but her eyes were burning with fire. My throat closed, and tears spilled before I could stop them. She rushed toward me, and I wrapped my arms around her. She sobbed into my shoulder, shaking as though she had carried the weight of 1,000 secrets alone. They tried to kill me, she whispered, her voice broken but steady enough to shatter my heart. I saw things our parents never wanted us to know. I pulled back, staring into her face, trying to understand the impossible words she had just spoken. My parents? My chest tightened, my mind spinning. She clung to me, her grip desperate, as if she feared I might vanish too. The room tilted, my world turning upside down with every second. The sister I thought I had buried was alive. The parents I thought I could trust were monsters hiding behind masks. Nothing in my life was real anymore. That night in the ruins of the school, under flickering moonlight, the truth began to unravel, and I knew life would never be the same again. I held Amara tightly in that dark abandoned school, but she pulled away, her eyes filled with a fire that made me both proud and terrified. Her face was pale, her body weak, yet her voice carried the weight of secrets too heavy for someone so young to carry alone. She took a shaky breath and told me the truth, the kind of truth that made my skin crawl and my stomach turn. Our parents were not who the world thought they were. Everyone admired them as powerful businesspeople, respected and feared in equal measure. But behind their wealth and shining reputation was something rotten, something built on suffering. Amara said she hadn't meant to discover it. One evening she had gone into Father's study, a place we were never allowed to enter without permission. He had left the safe slightly open, and curiosity pulled her in. Inside, she found files, photographs, and papers that didn't look like ordinary business documents. The deeper she read, the more her heart froze. Offshore accounts filled with millions, names of politicians beside bribes, and worse, lists of people, human beings, treated as if they were nothing more than numbers in a ledger. Our parents were not just rich. They were criminals of the darkest kind, feeding off the pain of others, buying silence with money and blood. Her voice broke as she explained how she confronted them. She couldn't stay quiet, not after what she had seen. She had tried to ask them why, to beg them to stop, but instead of guilt or shame, she was met with cold fury. They told her she was foolish, that she had seen too much. From that moment, she became a threat they had to erase. The fire, the closed coffin, the rushed burial, it was all part of their plan to make her vanish forever. Tears slipped down my face as I listened, but Amara's eyes stayed strong, even as her body shook. She told me how she barely escaped. One night, before they could finish what they had started, she slipped away into the darkness, running until her legs gave out. She had been hiding ever since, watching from the shadows, knowing they would never stop hunting her. Every word cut deeper into me. I thought back to all the times I had admired my parents, the times I had defended them, the way I had trusted them without question. Now every memory felt poisoned. Their kindness was nothing but a mask. Their love, a performance. They had built an empire on lies, and when Amara tried to uncover it, they tried to bury her with those lies. As she finished, she grabbed my hands, her eyes blazing even brighter through her tears. I realized the message on my phone was more than a warning. It was a lifeline, a call to see the truth. My world shattered, but in that moment, I understood one thing clearly: we were not just children mourning a broken family. We were survivors of a hidden empire of evil. The morning after meeting Amara, I woke with my heart still racing from everything she had revealed. I barely slept, my mind looping over the files she had found, the money, the bribes, the people my parents had destroyed. The world outside looked the same, birds chirped, the sun climbed gently into the sky, but inside me, everything had changed. I was no longer just grieving. I was living inside a nightmare. As I stepped out of the house, a strange unease crawled over me. At first, I thought it was just paranoia. But then I noticed it, a black car parked down the street, engine running. Later, another car appeared when I turned the corner, moving slowly as if shadowing me. My stomach dropped. They knew. My phone rang, and when I saw the name on the screen, my blood went cold. It was my parents. For a second, I almost didn't answer, but curiosity and fear made me swipe the screen. My mother's voice flowed through, soft, sweet, filled with false concern. She asked if I was eating well, if I was safe, her words dripping with sugar but leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. She begged me to come home, saying the house felt empty without me. Behind her voice, I could hear the sharp edge of control, like someone reading lines from a script. Then my father's voice cut in, calm, low, pretending to care. He said they missed me, that family was all we had, and that I should stop wandering and return. But I knew the truth now. Their love wasn't real. It was bait, a trap dressed up with soft words. I told them no. I told them I wasn't coming back. The silence on the other end stretched long, and then their tone shifted like a knife turning in the dark. The sweetness disappeared. My father's voice hardened, cold and commanding. He said I was being ungrateful, reckless, that I was making dangerous choices. My mother, once pleading, now hissed like venom, warning me not to test their patience. The words struck me like blows. These weren't the voices of parents anymore. They were the voices of hunters circling their prey. I hung up, my hands trembling so hard I could barely hold the phone. My eyes darted to the street again, and sure enough, the same car was still there, waiting. My chest tightened as I realized what Amara had been living through since she escaped. We were not safe. Not in the city, not in the open, not even in daylight. Every shadow felt like it belonged to them, every sound of an engine sent fear shooting through my veins. My parents, the people who were supposed to protect us, had turned into predators. And Amara and I, we were their prey. That truth hit me harder than any coffin, any funeral, any lie. There was no going back now. We were being hunted by our own blood. The room was still heavy with silence when Chief Obi cleared his throat and spoke again, this time louder, his voice carrying the weight of final judgment. He looked straight at Chaik and his family, his expression calm but unshakable. From this day forward, he said slowly, everything I own will be transferred into my daughter Amara's name. She will be the rightful owner of all my lands, estates, and businesses. No one else will have any claim to it. His words struck like lightning, and the shock on their faces was almost painful to watch. Chaik's father dropped back into his chair as though the strength had left his body. Chaik's mother pressed her hands together, whispering, "No, this cannot be." Chaik himself looked like a man drowning. He scrambled for words, trying to smile, trying to act as if all his cruelty had been nothing but a misunderstanding. "Amara, my love," he stammered, "you know I was only joking all those times. You know I have always cared for you. We were wrong to treat you that way. Please, forgive us." His brothers and sisters joined in, their proud voices suddenly soft, begging for mercy. The same family that had mocked her worth now fought desperately to hold on to their pride. But Chief Obi was already 2 steps ahead of them. Without their knowledge, he had invited the press. And right at that moment, cameras and microphones began flooding the room. Reporters snapped pictures, recording every face, every plea, every desperate word. The flash of cameras lit up the dining hall, and the cruel family who once bragged about their power was now caught in the spotlight of shame. Their arrogance had been their mask, and it was being torn away for the whole city to see. The reporters quickly realized what was happening. The poor girl, mocked by her in-laws, was in fact the heiress of one of the greatest fortunes in Lagos. And the proud family who had treated her like nothing were now groveling in front of her, their empire of pride crumbling right before the eyes of the world. Questions flew through the air, microphones were shoved in faces, and the humiliation of Chaik's family was sealed forever. Amara sat quietly, her head lifted high, her silence more powerful than their desperate cries. She no longer needed to defend herself. The truth spoke louder than any words she could say. Chief Obi rested a gentle hand on her shoulder, his face proud and steady, while the cameras captured the image that would spread across the city by morning, a daughter rising, and a cruel family falling. By the time the reporters left, Chaik and his family were broken. Their name, once spoken with pride, was now covered in disgrace. Their reputation was ruined, their arrogance destroyed, and their cruelty exposed. Amara, the woman they once called worthless, had become the very symbol of power and dignity. And nothing they said or did could change it. The sound of the handcuffs still echoed in my ears as my parents were taken away. The people who once stood as untouchable giants now walked with their heads bowed, trapped by the very justice they thought they could escape. My chest tightened with a mixture of pain and relief. Beside me, Amara's hand slipped into mine. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but her grip was strong, almost fierce. We didn't need words in that moment. The silence between us spoke louder than anything. We had survived. We had faced the darkest truth about our own blood, and yet we were still standing. When the courtroom emptied and the night wrapped around us, we stepped outside together. The sky stretched wide and endless, the stars scattered above us like diamonds spilled across black velvet. I had looked at those same stars many times before, but tonight they seemed different, brighter, almost alive. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt hope, fragile but real. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Fear struck me at first, but when I pulled it out, I saw Amara's message glowing on the screen. Simple, powerful, and nothing like the warnings she had sent before. We survived them. Now, we build our own empire. My throat tightened as tears blurred my vision. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming our lives, rewriting our story, and creating something new that no one could take from us again. The funeral that began with lies had ended with truth. And under the stars of Africa, two sisters walked forward together, not broken, but reborn.